Hello everybody and welcome back to The Pale Thread. As you can see, my ambiance is a bit different as usual. I'm actually trying out filming at night for the first time. I do, of course, have a full-time job, as if this was my full-time job. I wish. So I'm filming at night for a plethora of different reasons. So the lighting looks a little different, and to be honest, it's because I'm having issues with my camera if the light is open. But I hope you enjoy this spookier kind of feel about it. But today we're going to cover the very shocking and unfortunate case of Cody Legebokoff, who is one of Canada's youngest, if not the youngest, serial killer ever. So together, let's pull the thread and see where it leads us. Some killers leave a trail of troubled childhoods, signs that something is off, and that wasn't the case with Cody. Cody came from a good family, a loving family, and nothing could have prepared anyone that knew Cody of what was coming. So let's start on the night of November 27th, 2010. It was on Highway 27 where a rookie RCMP officer, so RCMP is the equivalent of Highway Patrol, I guess, in the US, and a rookie officer was on that highway and noticed a car acting suspiciously, a truck more specifically. This officer is Aaron Keller, and he notices that the truck in question is speeding and it's kicking gravel, and it's 10 p.m. at night, and his what some would call spidey senses kind of kick in, and he's thinking, I think I want to talk to that guy or girl, but we all know it's a guy. Also, this is a very deserted area. No one's really supposed to be on this highway. So he pulls a 20-year-old Cody Legebokoff to the side of the road, and he asks him, hey, sir, what's up? What are you doing on this road late at night? And he says, hey, I'm a redneck. I do what rednecks be doing. So he said that he was just hunting, hanging out, having fun. And the officer notices that there's blood on him. There's also a wrench in the car with him. So he explains that, he was hunting, but there's no deer. There's no animal in his truck that he supposedly killed. So again, the rookie officer kind of decides that something isn't completely right. So he asks Cody to sit tight. He basically suspects him to be poaching. So he calls in for reinforcement. Under suspicion of poaching, he arrests Legebokoff under the Canadian Wildlife Act. He asks a conservation officer to help out. When they track the tire tracks back, they don't find an animal. They find a 15-year-old young girl with her pants to her ankles, dead, and with her head bashed in. Another thing that the officer found was suspicious when they were searching his truck, well, actually looking around the truck, they found a monkey backpack with a hospital card. And the hospital card belonged to a young girl named Lauren Leslie. Now, what that officer didn't know when he arrested Cody is that he had just arrested a basically young man who had just moved from Fort St. James, a very small town, to Prince George, and who had no troubled background. He was, like I said at the beginning, he had a good family. He was popular. People liked Cody. He did have a tendency to get quite angry on the ice when he played hockey, and some of the parents were a bit iffy having their own children play hockey with Cody. But other than that, he had, I think, a minor police record on him. And other than, like, people liked being around Cody. So when he graduated and moved 100 miles up to Prince George and found a job as a mechanic, he also found a girlfriend, started dating this one young lady. Sadly, because Prince George does have an issue with drug use and somewhat poverty, he got into drugs, more specifically cocaine. He went from a very small town that had 1,600 people, maybe, at its peak, to a somewhat bustling city of about 77,000 people. And like I said, it has a bit of a drug issue, and apparently Cody kind of fell into that. And if he had a silent yet obvious rage issue, I think cocaine will play kind of a part in that. And like I said, Cody was only 20 when he got arrested. He was born on January 21st, 1990. Now that we've spoken mostly about this monster, who is Lauren? Who is that sweet young lady that they found, basically slaughtered? Lauren Dawn Leslie was a very special young kid. She was known from a very young age to be very empathetic. So something important to know about Lauren is that she was legally blind. She was completely blind out of one eye, and she was 50% blind out of the other. But that didn't stop her from being the light of everyone's life. She, even at the age of 9, when she was very young, her friend passed. Her friend, who was a little boy, drowned. And she understood the importance of standing with the parents during the funeral. She sat with the mother the entire time, just stroking her arm, trying to make her feel better. I watched a video, and it is her father, Doug Leslie, and her grandmother, amongst other things, testifying about how special this little kid was. And it is such an injustice that she was taken away so young. And how did their paths cross, you might ask? They met on a website, an unpopular website, and he was upfront with his age. He did tell her that he was 20, but he also added, "Don't tell anyone." And he offered to meet in a schoolyard that evening. I don't know how she felt. I don't know if she was stressed. I don't know if she was shy, but she agreed. And they met, and he tried to get her to drink, and she refused at first, and then she said yes to what they call mudslides. I'm not familiar with what that is, but apparently he got her to drink some mudslides, and I don't know if he put anything in there. I don't know if he drugged her. I don't know if he got her to drink a ton of it, but he basically lured her into her own death. So back to that fateful night of November 27th, they bring him in and they interview him. And I've seen this a couple times, and it doesn't surprise me anymore, where the person being interviewed is not showing any sign of guilt or stress. You do see some interviews where the person's sweating and they don't know, and you know that the whole time they're about to say something, but Cody's interview is very detached. From what I gather, he doesn't have much of... He doesn't have much guilt about what he just did. I don't know if he's a great actor or not, but he just basically wants to talk to his dad. He asks to talk to his dad, and I guess that's his safe place or whatnot. But they do take his DNA. And with that DNA, they are able to link him to 3 other deaths. So let's be very clear. This isn't a man who was on a date. She did something that pissed him off and he snapped. This is a man who was looking for a reason to attack a vulnerable woman. Previously, Cody had been responsible for the death of Jill Stacy Stachenko, a 35-year-old woman who was a mother of 6, who was last seen on October 2009. She was found 4 days later in a gravel pit near Prince George. He was also responsible for the death of Cynthia Frances Maas, who was also 35, and who was last seen on September 10th, 2010. She was found a month later in a park. Her injuries were very similar to Lauren's, where she had multiple blunt force trauma to her head and stomp injuries, that always gets me. Of course, I read and listen to a ton of stories and I talk about many of them, but someone who stomps on someone who really gets to me. I wish I could put their teeth on a sidewalk and stomp myself. He was also responsible for Natasha Lynn Montgomery, who was a bit younger. She was 23, a mother of 2, who was last seen August or early September 2010, and she has yet to be found. They were able to link her to Cody because of her DNA that was all over Cody's apartment. What these women had in common, most of them, were women who resorted to prostitution to make ends meet. They were women who were vulnerable, who desperately needed money, and they had no choice to trust whomever crossed their paths. In June 2014, his trial began. He pled not guilty, of course. He did something that is quite rare when it comes to murder trials. He took the stand in his own defense. So people tend to stay away from taking the stand because, guilty or not, you tend to say things. I'm the worst at that. I say stuff all the time where it sounds very different in my head, and then I say it and I sound like a complete asshole. So I would be the first person to not take the stand because I can't, I speak too much. Anyways, so he took the stand, and his own defense, for the first 3 girls, he said that he was actually helping them. He knew that they were in trouble with drug dealers, and he tried helping them, but ended up not being able to save them. And obviously, those drug dealers, those pimps, they got to them, even though he was trying to save them, As for Lauren, he said, although inappropriate, all he did was date a 15-year-old, that they got it on, and that at some point she started harming herself. So she had brought a knife with her, and when they were done with their date, she started just basically hurting herself. And to put her out of her misery, he took a wrench and smashed her head in, to prevent further pain. The jury didn't buy it, and neither did the families of the victim, thank God, victims. Let's be very clear with that. And what stood out to people was his arrogance on the stand. He had the gall to say that he was just basically their savior. On September 11th, 2014, he was found guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25. After 5 years in prison, he was transferred into medium security prison, which Lauren's dad is constantly fighting against, just to send him back to maximum security. We don't want him to be in a medium security prison, so he looks better when he's out for his possibility of parole. So her dad, Doug, is constantly fighting to get him back to where he belongs. Cody Alan Legebokoff is not a result of his environment. He is not a consequence of his parents being violent. He is not oppressed by society, which made him snap and just attack random people. He aimed for vulnerable women, vulnerable victims. He could sexually assault and then murder, and apparently not get away with it because he got caught. That officer, that RCMP officer, he's amazing. Like when someone, I can't remember who, spoke about him and talked about his spidey senses, and it is exactly what it was. That was amazing. Him being able to say, okay, this isn't just a speeding teen, or this isn't just a drunk dude one night on a highway. He said, this isn't normal, let me investigate. And along Highway 16, so this is a very close highway that links Cody's childhood town to his next step in life where he was a mechanic in Prince George. There is a highway. The Highway 16 is 725 kilometers long, and it is sadly known as the Highway of Tears. Countless people, mostly women, have gone missing along this highway. Why? Because it is a very either dense forest areas or very plain open fields where it would be very easy to hide bodies, to conceal a crime. And yes, we know about 4 crimes that Cody has committed, but is that all he did? He lived very close to Highway 16. He could have done so much more, and maybe he has, but for now, he is guilty of 4 first-degree murders, which is good. I hope he never ever gets out. And as a society, we should make sure that it never happens. Her grandmother Kathleen, and like I said, Father Doug, not Father Doug, but her father Doug, are really fighting for her memory. So, and I'm talking about Lauren, the 15-year-old. So I guess I'll finish this video saying you never really know who you're surrounded with, and trust your spidey senses. Not only police officers have them. And Cody had a big bright smile, people loved him, and maybe people should have been a bit more scared of him. Let's remember the names of the victims: Lauren Dawn Leslie, Jill Stacy Stachenko, Natasha Lynn Montgomery, Cynthia Francis Moss. I hope you get to see me in the next video. I hope I get to interact with you in the comments below. And until next time, stay curious, stay safe.